Hello everyone, this is Ryan King, and welcome to this Blender tutorial where I'm going to be showing you how to create this typewriter effect in Blender. Now to create this, we're going to be using a free Blender add-on. You can download it with the link in the description, and I'll show you how to add it into Blender, and it's going to enable us to create this typewriter effect. And this was actually a tutorial request from one of my viewers, so I can't remember who requested it, but thank you for requesting this tutorial. This is a great idea. Now, you can add this typewriter effect on top of footage like this here, like I have myself typing it out, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You could just have it on a black background, or you could have it in a 3D animated scene, or whatever you want to do. In this case, I just put it on top of some footage. So as I said, we're going to be using a Blender add-on to create this effect. So here is the Blender add-on on GitHub. I'll leave a link in the video description so you can download it. And thank you to Doke3 for this awesome Blender add-on. So just click the link in the description and it will lead you to this page. What you're going to do is you're just going to click on this code button, and then you're just going to click on download zip, and that's going to download the add-on, and then just click on save file and click on OK. Just a couple quick things I wanted to go over before we get started. If you'd like to help support this channel, the best places to do that are over on my Patreon page and my Gumroad store. So on my Gumroad and my Patreon, you can get tutorial files, you can get procedural materials, you can also get 3D models and assets, and some of my artwork project files as well over on my Gumroad and Patreon. And also here on YouTube, I have the YouTube membership. So right next to the subscribe button, there's that little join button. So if you join that, you'll be helping me each month and you'll get some cool perks as well. So those are some great places to help support the channel if you'd like to help out. And I'd also like to thank this video's sponsor, Sketchfab. Sketchfab is a 3D model site where you can preview 3D models in your browser. You can even view them on a phone, tablet, or in VR and AR. They also have a huge 3D model store where you can purchase models and assets. You can also apply to sell your own 3D models on the platform. Check out Sketchfab with the links in the description. Alright, so here I am in Blender, and we're first going to start by installing the add-on. So what you're going to do is you're going to go right here to Edit, and then you're just going to go to the User Preferences. And then right over here, just click on the add-ons. You're going to click right over here on this Install button. And then this file browser will appear, and you just need to locate to wherever you saved the Blender add-on. And then I'm just going to click on it, and then click on Install Add-on. So now that that's installed, you should just be able to type in type, so TYP, and you can see there is this text, typewriter text. So just turn this on by check marking it. And I did just want to point out the creators of this add-on. Thank you very much to these creators. I really appreciate it because this is a really cool Blender add-on. Now, if you want this add-on to be in all your future Blender projects, you can just click on the Save Preferences button on the Blender add-ons right behind me, and then we can just close the user preferences. All right, let's get started. So if you want to film some footage, you can totally do that, or you could just put it on a black background, or you could put it on like some 3D animation or whatever you want to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on top of footage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press 7 on the number pad, and I'm also just going to turn on my screencast key so that you can see what buttons I'm pressing right here in the corner. So now that I've pressed 7 for top view, I want to put the camera right on the top here. So to do that, I'm going to press Control-Alt numpad 0, and that way the camera is going to hop to where we are. Now the default cube and the lamp, I don't want that, so I'm just going to delete them. So press X and delete, and always delete the default cube. You have to always delete the cube. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to go right down here. Here it is, to text. So I'm going to add the text, and then to edit the text, you can press Tab to go into edit mode. Now you could change the text here, but what I'm going to do is just get rid of it, and then just Tab to go back into object mode. What we're going to do is we're going to actually type in the text within the add-on, and then we will animate it. So to get to the add-on, what I'm going to do is click right over here on this little button right here to the object data properties. Now this, you won't be able to see this unless you have the text object selected. So just make sure you have that selected and then hop over here. So now if you scroll down, if you install the add-on, you should see this typewriter effect. So you can just turn this on, and then right here, the source text, that is what you're going to type in. So I'm just going to type in awesome ... typewriter effect. Okay, awesome typewriter effect, and I think I'll put a exclamation point right there. So that's what I want it to say, so I'm just going to put that in. Now you can't see anything, and that's because this character count is set to 0. Now if I just start to turn this up, you might be able to see the letters come up. For some reason, for me, it doesn't seem to work until I move this timeline. So yeah, just turn this up to a big number so that you can see it, and then if you move the timeline, it should update and you should be able to see that. All right, and then there's just a couple more things that we need to do. I want the camera to be set to orthographic so that there's no perspective. If you want to have perspective, like maybe have 3D letters, you could totally do that if you wanted to. I'm just going to click on the camera, and then right over here on the camera type, I'm going to change it to orthographic, and that way I know that it's going to be perfectly flat and there's no perspective. And then because I'm going to be adding this on top of footage, I need the background to be transparent. So to make the background transparent, I'm just going to click right here. Actually, it's the one right above this. I always get that wrong. Right here under film, you're going to change this to transparent. And that way, when you render this, it's going to be a transparent background. Now, as far as the render engine goes, you could use Cycles if you want to, but because I'm going to have a very simple white text, I'm just going to use Eevee because I don't really need it to be fancy or anything. I'll just use Eevee because I'm just going to have a white text. And then I'm also going to turn these things off, the ambient occlusion, screen space reflections, and motion blur. I don't really need these because all we want is the typewriter look. All right, let's also save this file. So I'm just going to go File, and then I'm just going to click on Save As. I'm just going to save this as typewriter.blend on my computer. I'll just click on Save As to save this. And then as you're working on the project, you can just press Control S and that'll save your Blender file. All right, so I want to add this on top of footage. So I can click on this and press S to scale, G to grab, or R to rotate, but I want to put the footage in the background so that I can see it and then I know where I want to put the text. So what I'm going to do is I have my file browser right over here on my other monitor. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag and drop my video right in here, and I'm just going to drop it over here, and you can see what it does is it adds this as a backdrop. So now I can move around and I can actually see the video playing. Now if this didn't work for some reason, you can click on the camera and then go to the camera settings, and then right here there is background images. If you click on this and turn this on, you can add in a movie clip or an image. So for this thing I would actually do a movie clip, so you could change it to movie clip, and then you could click on open and then just locate to your video, and I'm just going to double tap on it to add it in. Now a couple more things that you need to make sure, right over here, just make sure that this resolution matches your video resolution. So I filmed this in 1080p, so I'm just going to leave this at 1920 by 1080. That's pretty standard. And then also the frame rate, I know that I filmed this in 60 frames per second, so I'm just going to change that to 60 frames per second, and that way when you play this, it's going to play at the proper speed. And then also you're going to need to set the end frame, so you can just scrub through this until you find the end frame, and then the end, you're just going to need to make that the correct frame. So it looks like mine has 150 frames, so I'm just going to type in 550, enter, and you can see that now it ends at 550, and that is the end of my video. So just create it the size of your video. All right, so now what I can do is I can select the text and I can press G to grab, move it over, S to scale, and also if I want to, R to rotate, I could do that if I wanted to. So I'm just going to stick it about right here. Now over here on the text settings, there are a bunch of things that you could do. Like for instance, if you go to geometry, you could like make the depth bigger if you want the text to be like bubbly. You could also do like the extrude or the offset. And you can also play around with things like the character spacing, the word spacing, and the line spacing. There's a bunch of different settings here. And there's also the font settings. So if you want to use a different font, what you would do is right here, you can download fonts. I use a website called 1001fonts.com. I will leave a link in the description to that website if you'd like to download some fonts from that. But you can just click on this regular, just click on the file icon to add a font. And then here's a cool free font that I found online. I'm just going to add this in, and you can see, there we go. We have that cool font there. All right, so once you have that set up, we can go ahead and just set up some basic materials. So what I'm going to do is just click on the text, and then I'm going to click right over here to the materials. I'm going to click on new, and I can just call this text or whatever you want to do. Now the surface, you could set this to principled if you want. I'm just going to go up into rendered view. I want this to be just a white text. So what I'm going to do is click right here, and I'm going to change this to emission, and that way it's emitting light and it's just going to be white. and then I'm just going to leave it to pure white, and the strength I can just leave at 1. So now you can see if I press F12 to render this, there we go. It just is a white text, pretty basic stuff. If you wanted to, you could add in textures or other things that you want to do. I'm just going to have it a basic white text. All right, I'm just going to press Ctrl S again to save my project, and it is now time to animate. So this is the fun part. So if I click right over here, back to the text properties, I can just go down here to the add-on, and here it is. So what we need to do is we need to actually animate this value right here, the character count. Now this character count, the number here, I just turned it up to a giant value. I think it's better to just use the amount that you need. So what you can do is you can just count these, or you could also just add them in like a Word document and then look and see how many characters you have. I just counted these and I have about 30 here. You just need to make sure that you have at least the amount of characters that you have typed out, or a little bit more. So this character count here, I'm just going to change it to 30. And then if you play through this, you can see if I start to turn this down to like 26, 25, you can see now we don't have enough. So just turn this up to the amount that you need. And then if you need to just update this, if for some reason it's not updating, just scrub through the timeline. There we go. So I just have 29. So I'm just going to actually just set that to 29. All right. So now we can go ahead and animate this. So what you can do is first, you can just go to the frame that you want them to start. So you can just animate this however you want. What I want to do is I want it so that it only types when I'm typing in the video. So I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to have it start about here because I start typing. So this character count, I'm just going to remember that I have 29 characters. The character count, I'm going to turn this to 0. Then what I can do is I can add a keyframe to this value. So I'm going to press I to add a keyframe. So now what I can do is I can play through this or just scrub through here, and I want to just have him write the first word about there, and then I want it to stop. So what I can do now is I can just change this to the number that I want. Now you can just drag this number up, and then you can press I to insert a keyframe, and then you're just going to need to move your timeline for it to update. For some reason it wasn't updating. Now that is too many. What I want is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this character count here, right there, you can see here is the keyframe that I've added. What I'm going to do is just change this character count to 10 and then just press I again, and that will override the keyframe. And now if I just scrub through to update this, you can see now it's only added 10. So now if I just play through this, you can see it says awesome. And then I'm just like thinking here, what do I want to write? And then I start typing again right here. So from here to here, I don't want there to be anything moving. I just want it to stay the same. So what I can do is I can actually just duplicate this keyframe and move it over. So we have this keyframe right here, and just select it. And if you select it, it's going to be yellow. What I'm going to do is just press Shift D to duplicate it, and I'm just going to drag it over until I start typing again. And that way, it's not going to be moving. Now, if your scene doesn't have this, that's totally fine. You can just do one keyframe at 0 and then another keyframe at the amount of characters that you have, and it'll just go all the way through. But because I'm typing, I want it to sort of like add it as I type. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. All right, and you can see that it also adds this little orange line here, and that is telling you that between this keyframe and this keyframe, nothing changes, but there's 2 keyframes there, but nothing changes in between. So now I'm going to type again. You can see I'm typing, and I want it to end probably about here. So I'm going to turn this amount up again. Let's just press I to add a keyframe, and then I'll just move one frame over to update it. And what I want is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I want 11 more. So 10 plus 11, that should be 21. So I'm going to change this character count to 21 because 21 would be right here. And then just go to wherever you want it to end. So right here when my hands stop, and I did already add a keyframe. I'm just going to add another keyframe on the top of it, and that'll just override the previous keyframe. So I can just press I again. And now if I just move to update my view, there you can see that from here to here, it says Typewriter. All right, that stops. There's like a small pause, and then I write the word effect. So what I'm going to do again is just click on this keyframe right here, and I want to duplicate it and move it over so that nothing moves in that little pause. So I'll press Shift D, move this over. And then if I want to move it over again, I can just press G to grab and move it over. And then I'm just going to wait until I start to type, so right about there. And then I can just have this go all the way to the end. So I just need to add 7 more to this because effect with an exclamation point should be 7. So I'll just take this 21 and I'll just make it 28, go to 28, and then I will just press I to insert another keyframe. And now you can see, there we go, and it looks like I didn't get it quite right. I think I forgot to add the spacebar, so instead of 28, I just need to change this amount to 29, and then just press I to add a keyframe. And now if I play through this, there we go. So now I can just scrub through this, Typewriter, effect. And there we go. So it's really quite easy. Once you've used it for a little while, it actually is pretty easy to use and it works really well. And then if you need to adjust these keyframes, you can click on them and then you can just press G to grab and you can move them around if some of the timing wasn't quite right. And then of course, if you just want all the text to just come out at one time, you would just go to the start frame, add a keyframe at 0, and then at the very end, you just go to the very end and then change this to the number that you need, and then just press I to insert a keyframe, and that way it'll just play through the whole thing. All right, so now we can go ahead and render this out, and we can put it together with our video in Blender's video editor. Now, you could do this in Blender's Compositor if you wanted to, but I'm gonna do it in Blender's video editor, but let me just show you how to do it in Blender's Compositor if you'd like to do that instead. So I'm just going to press F12 to render, and because I'm using Blender Eevee, it renders really quick. And then if you scroll right up here, you should see the Compositing tab. So I'm just going to click on the Compositing tab. Now I want to use the nodes, so I'm just going to click on Use Nodes, and you can see it there is this render layers and this composite. So what I need to do now is just add in the video file, and then we can just put them together. So I'm going to press Shift A and I'm going to search for an image. I'm just going to drop this image right here. And then I just need to click on the open button to open up the footage. And here is the footage. So I'm just going to click on this to add it in. Now the start frame, I'm going to set that to 1 because I want the video to start at frame 1. The frames here, I'm just going to click on this and turn it up to a really high amount so that I have plenty of frames. So there we go. Now you can see if I play through this, this thing should update, but I want to be able to put the text on top of the video. So to do this, I'm going to press Shift A and I'm going to search for an alpha over node. I'm just going to drop this alpha over node right here, and this will allow us to put them together. Now, because we rendered this out as a transparent background, it has an alpha channel, so it's really easy for us to put it together. So this image, I'm going to put this right here on the top one, and then that one will go into the bottom one. Now, we can't really see it in the background. That's because we need to add a viewer node. Now, I have the Node Wrangler add-on turned on, so I can just press Control Shift and then click on the alpha over node to add the viewer node. You can also just press Shift A and search for a viewer node, and then you can just plug it up. And with the viewer node plugged in now, you should be able to see this in the background. Now, if for some reason you can't see this, it's probably because of the backdrop. So if you just turn on that backdrop button, now you should be able to see it, and now you can just scrub through this and it will update. But the text isn't updating, and that's because you need to just press F12 to render, and then you can just press Escape and it's going to go back to the compositor. So it's pretty easy. You could just do that and then render it out into a video file. Now, I actually want to do this in Blender's video editor because I just like that better. So I'm just going to click on the Use Nodes and turn it off so that it won't use the nodes. And now when I press F12 to render, it's only going to render the frame right here. So what I need to do is I need to render this out into an image sequence. So it's basically just a folder with a bunch of images, and then we will add that into Blender's video editor. So I'm going to go right down here to the render properties. I'm just going to scroll down, and then the output, I'm just going to click on this button to set the output. And then I just made a folder here called frames. I'm just going to go into the frames and then click on accept. And then one really important thing, you need the file format to be set to PNG. And then the color here, this needs to be set to RGBA. So RGB stands for red, green, and blue, but we also have an alpha channel here. So we have a transparency in the render. And so because of that, we need to set this to RGBA so it will also render out the transparency and actually save that into the images. Because if we don't do that, then it's just going to be a black background and we won't have any alpha channel so that we can add that on top of the footage. So that is really important. And then you can just press Control S to save this. And then to render this out, you can just press Control F12 to render the animation. And you can see because we are in Blender Eevee, it's doing it really fast. So it will be done rendering very quick. All right, so while that's rendering, I just opened up a new scene in Blender, and I'm going to scroll right over here and click on the video editing tab. Now, if you don't have a video editing tab, you can just click on the plus right here, and go to video editing and then just add the video editing right here. So what I need to do now is I just need to add in the footage. So you could just drag and drop the footage from your file browser. You could also press Shift A and you can just go right down here to movie. And then here is the video. So I'm just going to double click on this to add it in. And so now I can just scrub through this. Now, again, make sure the resolution is set to the resolution of your video and also the frame rate. I know that I filmed this in 60 frames per second, so just set that to the correct frame rate. And then also remember the end frame, that was 550 in my shot, but you can just change that to the correct end frame. So now if you scrub through this, you can see here is our video. And the typewriter images are just about done. So this will be finished. All right, it's done. So I'm just going to press Control S and then we can just close this Blender file. So back over here on my video editing file, I'm just going to go to the very first frame and then I'm going to press Shift A and I can just go here to image sequence because we want to add in the image sequence that we just rendered. And you can see here it is, so just go into the frames, and then when you go in there, you can see that here are all of the frames, and these are all the frames of the typewriter animation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press A, and that's going to select all the frames, and then I can click on Add Image Strip, and that's going to add it together as an image strip. And now when you scrub through this, you can see that there is our typewriter effect. Now you can't see the video underneath it, and that's because on default, Blender's video editor doesn't use the alpha channels. So what you need to do, if you just click on these frames, is the blend type. Right now it is set to cross. What you need to do is change that to alpha over, and that way you're telling that strip of frames to use the alpha channel. So now when I scrub through this, you can see, here we go. Awesome typewriter effect. So there we go. It's really quite easy, as you can see, and I do like using Blender's video editor because I do a lot of video editing in Blender, and that way if I want to like add in sound effects, or maybe I'm making like a short film, I could just add this into my short film, or I could add in music or whatever you want to do. So now we can just render this out to a finished video file. So to do this, I'm going to scroll down here. Now I can just save this on my desktop. You can just click right here and save it wherever you want. I'm just going to save this as final video. All right, and I'll just save that on my desktop. Now the file format, I don't want that to be PNGs because we want this to actually be a video file. So I'm going to change this to FFmpeg video. Now you can do whatever settings you want. I'm just going to show you the settings that I like to use. So I like to use the FFmpeg video, and then down here on encoding, the container, I like to use MPEG 4. That works pretty well. And then underneath video, I like to use H.264 as the video codec. The output quality and the encoding speed, I just leave those at the default at medium quality and good. And then right down here on the audio, I like to use the AAC audio format. That works really well as well. So those are the render settings that I use for my tutorials and short films or animations or whatever I'm doing. Those are the settings that I use. So now you can just save this file if you want. I'm just going to press Ctrl F12 now to render out the final animation, and then we will go ahead and watch it. Alright, and here we go. So here is the final video. So as you can see, this typewriter effect is really quite easy to do using this super awesome Blender add-on. So I hope this tutorial was helpful, and thank you so much for watching. And again, if you'd like to help support this channel, the best places to do that are over on my Gumroad store and my Patreon page, and I also just recently launched my YouTube memberships. You can check it out with the join button down below. But thank you for watching, I hope this video was helpful, and I will see you in a future video.